Today's topic, 6 signs he's ready for a relationship. Let me tell you a story. A few months ago, one of my favorite clients, Sally, calls me. And Sally is so excited when she gets on the phone with me. And she goes, Mike, you're never going to believe it. I've been in a 1-year amazing relationship. Like, thank you for everything you taught me. I've done it. And I'm like, whoa, like, congratulations. Like, that's why I do this. Like, this is so amazing. And so we have our celebratory, like, 30 seconds. And then I'm like, hold on. Let me put my devil's advocate hat on and make sure this is a good relationship. Because I am not in the business of crappy relationships, only amazing ones. So I go, Sally, does he have your top 5? And I'm like, hold on, because I want to hold her accountable. I get out my notes, pull out my top 5, and I'm like, go. And I go one by one with her. And we get down to number 5, which says financial stability. She's got her master's degree and is well educated. This guy didn't go to college, which is fine, but does not have financial stability. And all she was asking for was a guy that made $60,000 plus, and he did not. So I said, he does not have your top 5. We talked, is that not a problem? She goes, yes, that is a problem. I said, okay, let's keep talking. So we kept talking, and I said, I know you want to get married and have babies. You've been dating for a year. Have you discussed that? And she's like, yeah, he's not so ready to go down that route. So I'm just like, Sally, I love you, but like, what's going on? Like, what do you think? Is this right? And so then after our conversation, Sally, had to put her thinking cap on. And about a week or two later, she called me back with some realizations. And go down in the comments. What do you think she realized? You're smart. I bet you know what she realized. So go pop it down there. I'm curious what you think she realized. Okay. So 6 signs he's ready for a serious relationship. The reason I created this video is I'm sure a lot of you know what you want in a partner, but I want you to know whether he's actually ready for commitment, ready for a relationship. Because if he doesn't even have these things, you shouldn't give this guy a chance. Even if he has your top 5, even if you have chemistry, this stuff is vital. So we're going to go down the list. All right. Number 1 is he is secure with time together and secure with time apart, and is very supportive of your independent time. Let me tell you a story. I was in this relationship, and I was depressed. I don't know why I was depressed, but I was vulnerable. I told my partner. I didn't know what the reason was. I didn't say it was her fault. I just said, this is where I'm at. I need to get out of this funk. And I happen to love the Jersey Shore, specifically Belmar. And one of my friends has a house down there. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, would you mind if I took work off Friday, cleared my calendar, next Friday actually, so I had time to move everything, and go down to the beach? She said, sure, but just make sure you come home at night. We have this big thing tomorrow, this big event. I said, no problem. So then I'm having an amazing time with my friend, and we're at dinner. I have a drink, and I'm like, man, I'm having so much fun, and I feel quite a bit better. So I leave the dinner table, and I call her up, and I go, would you mind if I spent the evening at my friend's house? I know we have the event at whatever time it is. I will come pick you up. I will not be late for this big family function. I've got it. And she said, no, you got to come home. And it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel supportive. It didn't feel like she was okay with me having my own independence. And of course, if I got to take some blame for this. If I don't stand up for myself, no one else is. So it is my job to put my boundary of, hey, these are the things I need. So and this is 100% my fault that I'm not holding the boundary. But you want a person that makes it easy for you, right? That wants you to go do these events. So make sure you find a person who lets you be independent and, can be intimate and have connection with you as well. Does that make sense? Number 2 is he can give and he can receive. I'm good at giving. And I always have been. Like, I have no problem, for example, one of my friends in our early 20s, I wanted to get a beach house, and he didn't have the money for it. And I said, buddy, I'm going to front the beach house for you. Pay me back at some point. And so we got our beach house. Easy peasy, easy to give. A few years later, I was dating a woman, and I lost my job, and I had a 6-month unemployment stint because I was unemployed, didn't have money coming in. I still had savings, like I wasn't going to be homeless or anything, but I was living very frugally. And it really put a hampering on our dating life because I wasn't taking her to nice restaurants. And at that point in my life, I wasn't so creative with the dates of how to do cheap but fun dates. So she was just like, man, I need to go to a restaurant with you. Like, I need to go out. I need to be taken on a date. And I'm like, I'm not trying to spend money. And she said, you know what? I'm going to pay for it. And for weeks, I was just super resistant. I'm like, I'm the man. I pay for dinner dates. Like, I'm not going. And that was selfish of me. She was doing fine financially, and she was craving a date with me. And so eventually I did cave and let her take me on a date. And we went to a steakhouse, and it was an amazing evening that I remember to this day, even being over 10 years later. And it was just beautiful. And I said, thank you. But you need a man that is capable of giving and capable of receiving. And he has to be able to do both. You don't want to be doing everything where all you do is give and you never receive. And you don't want to do the opposite where you can't give to him and he can't accept it. So make sure he's capable of both so you can have a good relationship. Does that make sense? All right, number 3 is you want a guy that has a positive attitude. I want to tell you a story. It's a sad one, unfortunately. Some friends of mine, they got married and had a baby. And it was amazing. This was their first child, and they were so excited. And this was their dream, to have a family together. And 1 year into the child's life, it was at this daycare, and the woman messed up that was taking care of the baby, and the baby actually died. And it was clear-cut negligence. I'm sure none of you can imagine that. I can't imagine that at all. But this family, this young family, lost their child because someone was negligent at daycare. Now, anyone would be devastated by this. That's horrible. But fast forward, they had a positive attitude. They were actually on Facebook saying positive comments and being advocates for what this should be and what daycare should be. And a few years ago, they had another child. And that would not be possible if both of them didn't have a positive attitude of, we're not giving up. We're not just going to lay down and die. We still got lives to live. We're going to get up, pick ourselves up, and do this again. So they're ecstatically happy with their new family. And of course, still not forgetting their original family. Number 4 is you want someone that is patient. And there's so many avenues that you're going to need this for. Imagine living with someone, and even let's talk about sex for a second. Imagine that you want to be able to give and receive, like we talked about earlier, But what if someone had a tough day and the other one had a relaxing day and decides to just do something sexually for their partner with zero expectation of getting something back, but being patient and realizing that at some point it will come back? That's the type of partnership you want. You don't want someone who's always going to be tick for tack. You did that, now I got to do this, and just everything's got to be even all the time. There needs to be patience. That's what relationships are all about. Patience is so important, especially when it comes to arguing. I've talked about this in the past, but especially when you're arguing, there's usually going to be one person who's acting like the parent or the adult and one person who acts like the child. So when we go into temper tantrum mode or we're upset about something, right? We pop down into child mode and we're upset. And all of us do it. I do it all the time. I turn into a child. I get grumpy occasionally. And your patient one, your partner, is still the adult. Like, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. I've got your back. And you let them be a child for a bit and you stay here. And you don't come down and act like a child with them, and that causes these yelling fights. No. And then it flips back up. Then when she needs to be a child and you need to be the parent, the adult, excuse me, you're not going to be the mother to your son here. You're going to be the adult, and occasionally you guys are just going to flip-flop, and it's okay to be a child. Does that all make sense? Did I say that kind of confusing? Well, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about that. Number 5. You want someone who has boundaries. Oh, this is so important. I was dating this woman who could not say no to her family. And you know what this meant for me? Almost every single weekend, I had to go do something with her family. And in all fairness, I could have said no, so my boundaries were terrible too. But her boundaries are not great either. So what this led to was us never saying no and always going to do these family activities. And don't get me wrong, I'd say probably 97% of the time I had an absolute blast at these activities. But the point of this story is that even when we didn't want to go, we went. And so imagine if you get married to your partner or you have a life partnership with someone and they have bad boundaries, every time they don't say no, first of all, they're not going to say no to you, and you're never going to know what they truly want, which is not healthy. You never know what the boundary is with them. They'll just be dissatisfied and quietly hate you and then eventually blow up. And also, when you guys join your lives, every time someone asks to do something, they can't say no, or they don't have the ability to say no. So that means because you're your partner and want to support them, a lot of the time you're going to be doing stuff that potentially neither of you want to do. So make sure you find someone with healthy, strong boundaries, and you can be nice about it. Like, oh, I wish, I'd love to come to that, but, I promised date night, so we're doing date night. And no one's going to be upset. Like, you're allowed to have date night. But next weekend, we're definitely down to go to, the picnic or the family gathering. Number 6 is you want to find someone who's good at conflict resolution. So depending on how you feel fighting is how you want to fight, maybe that's including someone who doesn't yell, and maybe that's including someone who agrees to timeouts. So when child mode happens, if either one of you sink into child mode, then the adult one or the child decide, you know what, we need a timeout, and we'll come back when we can both be in adult mode and talk through this. And also on conflict resolution, you want someone who feels capable of resolving conflict. And what I mean by that is not someone who avoids it. Like, that person that just quietly gets upset and then never talks to you about it? Long term, that's going to be terrible, as I'm sure some of you have experienced. I know I have. And I know I've done this. As a man who doesn't like to mention his feelings, emotions, vulnerability, sometimes I just hold it all in, and then all of a sudden I go, boom! And that's not fair to a partner. So of course that's something I have been working on, and I am currently working on at really, hey, this is bothering me. Let's talk about it. All right, so that is your 6 signs he's ready for a relationship. Before you hop off, what I am curious about is what qualities are you looking for in a long-term relationship? I think this would be so interesting, so please plop in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, go hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications. And if this video is helpful, please share it. I would appreciate it. Anyway, I love all of you for watching, and we'll see you next time.